What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to share with you how much I spend every single month owning over $53 million of real estate and taking care of a family of 7 that's about to be a family of 8. So with that being said, let's jump into it. All right, there is a lot to unpack there. First of all, yes, Jess is pregnant. She has been for a while, and if you follow me on Instagram, you kind of already know, but we haven't announced it on the channel. I'm thinking in the near future, we might make another video just talking about the decision and all of the exciting things that are coming to our family. However, this video is going to be focused on all of the money that goes out running a business of $53 million worth of real estate and all of the expenses that are also involved in a family of 7 going on 8 and how all of that works together. Now, I was very hesitant to make a video like this. I've had lots of people asking to see how much income is coming in, where the net worth is coming from, kind of just an update on all the properties. And I figured we'd start here to show you how much money has to go out to keep a business like this going and kind of how all of that works. I figured that was an idea because it's not oversharing. It just gives you an idea of all the expenses and kind of the anxiety-inducing finances of owning this much real estate. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then we'll have to make some in the future that dive into income and net worth and all of that and how it all breaks down. But for this video, we are just going to cover how much I spend every single month and throughout the year. And the reason that I decided to do this video is I think a lot of times people don't understand how much debt I've had to take on to build the portfolio that I've built. The other day I was talking with a carpenter that was helping me with some work, and he said something, I don't remember what it was, but it's nice that you don't have any debt, or you're in a place where you don't have to worry about debt. And I said, that's not true. I actually have over $20 million worth of debt and payments every single month. And I saw this carpenter's jaw drop, and he looked at me like, crap, are you gonna be able to pay your bills? And so immediately I'm like, whoa, that's just kind of how it works with real estate. In order to build a portfolio and do it in a way that can give you the highest return and do it correctly, in my opinion, you need to take on some debt. There's no way that I could have built what I built with just cash, because I never had an income that was to the degree that it could help me to purchase that much real estate without borrowing lots of money, using seller financing, using banks, and using whatever options I could find to be able to purchase the real estate, leverage that money properly, so that then hopefully after all of my expenses, including those mortgage expenses, go out, there's income coming in that surpasses what those expenses are. So once I sat down with him for just a minute and said, whoa, don't stress. Like, I now own, 50 million plus worth of real estate, and I do have 20 million of that's debt. So equity-wise, I have more net worth tied up in this real estate, and I can access that if I sell or if I refinance these properties, but I don't want to do that. I want to run it in a way where hopefully I've locked in great interest rates on these properties. Every month I pay those mortgages, and then the rents come in, and the rents cover the mortgages, the insurance, the expenses, and then there's some left over so that it can cover our lifestyle and have extra to put away for other purchases and other things in the future. So that discussion kind of inspired me to do a video like this where I just dive into how much it costs to run my family, how much it costs to run my businesses, to keep the real estate going. And so we're just gonna open up the books and show you guys how much money is going out every single month. And again, if you enjoy the video, if you push that like button, subscribe, hit the little bell, and kind of tune in for our future videos, and this video does well, then maybe we'll dive into showing more of the income side of things. I've reached a point where that side makes me a little hesitant. I want to be careful to not overshare, but I also like sharing the expenses because it's intimidating, it's scary, and there is some level of risk there with investing in real estate, because you're going to have money that, hell or high water, it's going to have to go out to cover those mortgages every single month. And you need to make sure that you run your business properly so that you can afford those expenses and then have that cash flow on the top. And that's one of the biggest mistakes investors make, is they purchase a property, and after they've paid insurance, taxes, mortgage, and expenses, they don't have any money coming back to them. That's why a lot of times when people will talk negatively about landlords or investors, they need to understand there's a lot of risk there, and if it's not done properly, and if you're not managing those numbers correctly, you can end up in a place where you're helping provide housing for someone that's paying rent, but you're not not making any money, and a lot of times you can lose money if you don't do it right. So with all of that being said, we're just gonna jump right into it and show you guys how much I spend every single month. First off, I wanna start with the expenses going into my business. So we're gonna focus just on all of the real estate that I own and how much that costs every single month. In order to do that, let's first break down the portfolio that I own. I own 260 units of residential real estate. I also own 172 storage units. I own 2 commercial gym buildings. I own a law office building, and for those, the gyms and the law office, I have no ownership in the business. I just own the building and the business rents from me. And finally, I just purchased a motel that has 20 units and a little house attached. And so we're still figuring that out. So right now, more than anything, that's an expense rather than income because we're working through it, but I'm gonna show you all of the expenses of all of these. Now, when I plugged them all in, I tried to figure out what their actual worth was of all of the real estate that I own, including my house and cabin on top of everything else that we just listed. And I would assume conservatively that it's worth about $53 million. That's my best guess. Now it could be, 50 million, it could be, and more likely closer to the 60 million mark, but that's about what it's at. The other thing that I want to make clear is on almost all of these properties, I put anywhere from 20 to 30% down. Some of them I got more creative where I could just put 15% down, but usually it was between that 20 to 30% range. However, a lot of these properties were purchased 5 and 10 years ago. And those that were purchased 10 years ago, a lot of them have gone up in value, and I've been able to pay down what I owe. So when you hear, holy crap, you owe I think we owe about $22 million on all of this real estate, but it's worth $53 million. That's a lot of equity in these properties, but a lot of that is because these properties I bought 5 and 10 years ago. I may have refinanced them when rates were low, but that still was years back. And some of them I didn't refinance because they were on seller financing that was really good. And so I've paid them down while simultaneously they've gone up in value. So for those of you looking at my portfolio saying, Chandler, why is it so equity heavy? I mean, percentage wise, it ends up being about 41.7% that is debt. And then whatever that is, 59-ish, 58-ish percent that is equity. And so that's a very high equity portfolio for how much I've borrowed on these. And a big part of that is because they've gone up in value, why I've been paying them down. A lot of the commercial loans as well aren't on 30-year AMs, they're on 20 or 25-year AMs. So I've been able to pay them off more quickly. And so we're gonna go through all of the payments and what those expenses are, but I will say I'm really grateful for what the market's done the last 5 to 10 years because it has made me very equity strong in these properties, which is a little bit more of a safety net if I ever did need to fire sell these properties or refinance or whatever it may be. I've got room to move, which originally was not my plan. When I was purchasing these, again, I was putting as low down as I could, and a lot of times that was anywhere from that 20 to 30% range. All right, I've talked a lot. Now let's just dive into how much I spend every single month, and I'm gonna be looking at my computer to make sure that I get it right. But first off, I have mortgage payments on all of these properties that total $148,130 every single month. Now, what this is a combination of principal, interest, and in some of these, because they were conventional loans, there's also a little bit of my taxes and insurance. The reason it's that way is when you do a conventional loan, a lot of times they want to put the taxes and insurance broken down into your mortgage payment. When you go and do commercial loans or some of these seller finance loans, you just pay your taxes and insurance once or twice a year, kind of in a bulk sum. And so I've included those later. So keep in mind, it's not perfect. It will be a perfect number in the end, but this is mostly principal and interest going out with a little bit of taxes and insurance on those conventional loans. On top of that, I have another $13,441 that go out every month in taxes. I just took the total number of $161,298 in tax payments that I have to make and divided that by 12. So that gives me the $13,441 in taxes. I did the same thing with insurance, and my insurance on all of the properties that are not in being already paid on those conventional loans totals $3,666 every single month in insurance. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna say, Chandler, that seems really low for insurance. The reason that's low is, again, that's monthly when I've broken it down. For the year, it's about $44,000, but we had a lot of conventional loans that those were included in the mortgage payments. The other thing that's unique about that is I just adjusted, that was over 70, I think closer to $80,000 a year, but I just adjusted everything so that I have a $10,000 deductible. Because with how much real estate I have, I like to keep a lot of cash liquid. And because it's just sitting there in the bank, I can afford to pay a $10,000 deductible. And in my mind, the insurance company's done the math on me and what kind of risk I have. And so if I have the ability to pay those $10,000 deductibles, odds are they're not screwing themselves. They've done the math to say, you know what? We are willing to bet on this investment that we're going to make money long term. And so in my opinion, it's always better to do the higher deductible. Now, some people might argue with me. The only time I would say don't do the higher deductible is if you don't always have that and extra in the bank. I can pay that deductible if I have issues, but especially when I looked at how many times I actually sent things to insurance over the last 5 to 10 years, it just made a lot more sense to pay a higher deductible, but that way my premium each month was substantially lower. All right, before we jump into the personal side of things, I just wanted to add those up so that we're all on the same page. So if you take the principal and interest payments, you take the taxes, you take the insurance, you add them all together, that means every single month I spend $165,238. That's the money that guaranteed every month I know has to go out to keep the business running. Now, to be completely transparent, of that portion, I included my house and my cabin. So my house is, the monthly payment is $11,375. And my cabin, the payment is $9,030. So it ends up being a little over $20,000 of that $165,000 that is actually just my personal expenses. So just keep that in mind. We're gonna add all of these up so you know the total, but a portion of that number is including my house and my cabin. So on top of my house and my cabin, there are a couple other guaranteed monthly expenses that I've got to take care of because I really like grabbing low interest rates when they're available. I'm a junkie for a low interest rate. I like to keep cash on hand so that when I find deals or when I need to do different renovations or anything like that, I have the cash there. I also like to keep a big safety net so that I've got a minimum of 1 year reserves to where if I needed to make all of my payments on my own because no money was coming in, I could, so that I have an extreme degree of comfort for if crap does hit the fan and we run into hard times. And so the reason that I say that is a lot of people would say, Chandler, if you have the cash, why not pay off your cars? Why not, pay off your house? Why not do those things? Well, because my house, I can get a 30-year fixed mortgage at a 3.6% interest rate like I did. Same with my cabin, same with some of these cars that I bought in that window where rates were really low. And so to me, I'm consistently borrowing money. I'd rather have the money borrowed at those lower interest rates than current interest rates. And I knew rates were gonna go up. And so it's nice to keep that cash liquid. For the time, people might think I'm crazy because I'm paying interest when I don't need to. But now when interest rates are higher, I'm paying interest on super low interest rates. And that's why I do that way. So we've already talked about my house and cabin, but the other monthly expenses I have for my life is I did a boat on a 15-year AM at I think it's like a 3-point-something% interest rate. My payment on that is $1,619 every single month. My Porsche Turbo S, I did a loan on that. My payment is $2,902 every month. My TRX, I did a loan on that, which was $1,860 every single month. So when you include my house, my cabin, and the cars, I have $26,786 going out every month in payments to those things. Now, I have a Raptor, another Porsche, a Porsche Taycan, and a Ghetto fire truck that's for fun that Garrett talked me into buying. All of those are now owned in cash. At some point, those had loans, but a lot of times they were 3 or 5 year loans that ended up getting paid off and it wasn't worth refinancing. Once I've paid off those, I'm not gonna go and pull the cash out of them, especially with where rates are at right now. And so that's why those don't have any payments on them. Finally, and this probably seems a little absurd, but every month on my credit card, I usually ends up being probably between $25,000 and $30,000 depending on the month if we travel. And keep in mind, there's a lot of maintenance on our cabin, on our house. There is utilities, there's all of that stuff that's included in that $30,000 on top of making sure all of our kids have food, making sure they've got clothes, making sure they've got sports, school, all of that. And that's hard to track perfectly, but it's usually between $25,000 and $30,000. Some months are lower than that, some months are higher, but I think that's about what it pans out when you look at the whole year with me, my wife, and 5 kids. Now, I'm sure a big question a lot of people have is, well, Chandler, how much is coming in? Again, there's so much to dive into each of the properties and what that looks like, so we might do it in a future video. The one thing that I didn't cover that is technically an expense is every month my management company has a fee, and so we're gonna talk about that in the video. We also have maintenance that usually averages out to 8 to 12% on all of these properties. We're gonna talk about that. And this month, for instance, I spent an extra $300,000 on the down payment for the motel. Last month, I spent $300,000 on the down payment for the 8 unit that we bought. We also have 6 or 7 active renovations we're doing right now on the properties that we purchased that we have to put money into, cleaning up the units that were completely messed up and some units that have just been torn apart. So in that, I mean, there's another $150,000 just this month that we've spent. All of those things are ebbs and flows though. And so in the future video, if we dive into income, we're gonna really look at the properties and say, all right, what's the true expense? I just wanted to show you guys the guaranteed fixed expenses, because a lot of those other expenses are things that we think are going to add to the business, whether that's adding new units because we're doing full renovations on them, or projects that we're purchasing with down payments. And so that kind of throws off the numbers of what we actually spend as consistent expenses. So if you're wondering how much we spend every single month, those payments that have to go out, our credit card bill is the one that's just a little bit more variable, but I put it as $30,000 just to give us a little bit of leeway, because I think realistically that's kind of where it averages out with all the expenses that it takes on. That puts us at a total of $222,024 every single month of money that is going out. Now, keep in mind on the personal side, that's just for us, cars, houses, cabin, that kind of stuff. I think we're closer to about the $50,000 to $55,000 range that is just going to that stuff, where the remaining of that is going back into the real estate, and that's not including some of the bigger renovations or projects or purchases that we're taking on. Now, this video makes me super nervous to put out there. We've just had a lot of questions, and the reason I wanted to do it is there are 2 big concepts I hope you take home. First of all, if you're going to invest in real estate, there's going to be risk if you want to grow to the size where it can actually have an impact and your cash flow can cover your lifestyle. That's one thing that's really cool that we'll talk about. The income is what I'm spending. My life has definitely gotten to the point where it's become way more expensive than I ever thought that it would be. But it's been very easy to get to that point and not lose sleep over it, because I never had my lifestyle grow greater than the cash flow coming in after we've had the expenses going out. The cash flow coming in has always been able to cover my house, my cabins, my boats, my cars, my lifestyle. And that is one thing I always push people to is, hey, you can have the lifestyle that you want. You just need to do it the right way. There were times where literally me and my wife, Maddie, we weren't spending more than $40,000 or $50,000 a year, if that. There were some years I think we pushed down into the $30,000 range because we were still living in an apartment. We were spending as little as possible, and all of our money was going into purchasing real estate. As that cash flow could then cover that $30,000 to $40,000, then we let our lifestyle grow as our cash flow grew from the real estate. So that's the first big thing that I would say, is make sure that you keep your lifestyle small until the cash flow can cover it. I had an income that I could have lived a much better life way sooner than I did, but I held strong to taking that money and putting it into real estate. The other thing I want to tell you is I know that debt can be scary, but if you're locking in long-term loans, it is such a phenomenal tool. By purchasing all of this real estate that I did, you can see I have so much equity in these properties that just appeared because the properties went up in value. Now, some of that is principal pay down for sure, but the larger portion is because owning these properties that I wouldn't have been able to afford without debt, these properties have gone up in value drastically that now is equity and actual net worth for me. And so even though it's scary and intimidating to take on debt, if you do it properly, yes, those payments look scary, but I promise you when you see the money coming in from those rentals, it looks a lot less scary because man can have a huge impact when you buy these properties right. Finally, I really hope this video comes off in the right way. I think for me, I always dreamed of having a certain kind of lifestyle. And it was always so cool for me to see other people and their lifestyles. The other thing that I want to talk about is for me, when it comes to charitable donations, that's not something that I will ever publicize, but that also has been a massive blessing that I did not include in these expenses, and something that it was really cool to work towards getting the cash flow where not only can I live the lifestyle that I want, but I have the ability to give back in the ways that I want. And so you can kind of look at this video one of two ways. You can look at it as, oh, Chandler, why are you being this guy that's putting this crap out there? You look arrogant or snobby or whatever it is. I really hope you can see that's not my intention of this video because I always wanted this lifestyle. One of the real estate investors that I looked at that had this through purchasing real estate was one of my biggest inspirations when things were hard, when I was living a frugal lifestyle, when I was continuing to buy apartments when we didn't even have a house. And I think for you watching this video, I hope that's what you get out of it is yes, it takes massive sacrifice to make money or negotiate a good deal that then is producing cash flow and limit your lifestyle until your lifestyle is paid for by that cash flow. So I hope those are the takeaways you get. I hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments though. It'll be a big determining factor on the other videos on income, net worth, and so many other facets of this business, and if we end up doing those videos or not. The last thing that I want to mention is if you are wanting to get in real estate and you need help, I have so many videos out there that are going to show you exactly what I did. If you want more focused help, click the link down in the description and join our community. Check out the real estate investing course. Use those tools so that you can jump into that first property or scale the portfolio that you already have. And again, if you guys enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future videos. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.